Hi everyone and welcome back to my studio. Today we're just going to chill out and do some sketching, and I'm going to answer some questions that I got both from the last community post as well as from Instagram. By the way, right now you can see me just do some ugly and very loose studies, and I just film myself doing them. I can highly recommend doing 1 or 2 pages of these every day if you're trying to get better at poses and everything. They are my favorite way of practicing and warming myself up. I do sometimes see artists do really amazing warm-up sketches and I'm like, ooh. And first I was a bit unsure if I wanted to even share those with you, but these are not supposed to be anything masterful or anything, and the sketchbook I'm working in is probably also the one I'm going to do a few of my Inktober or Monster Mania pieces in, so it will probably be filled up in October. And then I'm probably also going to be doing a sketchbook tour for you guys on YouTube, which I'm really excited about. Quick disclaimer, I am getting over an intense cold, so if my voice sounds slightly off, that's why. But I'm nearly fully recovered now and feeling a lot better actually. Some of the questions I got pretty much require a full tutorial video to answer them, but lucky for you, I'm actually working on a full-on illustration course where I answer all of them and show you how to do things like draw heads and faces, anatomy, perspective, or backgrounds in real time with step-by-step instructions. It's the course I'm filming for Class 101, and it will finally be available to watch on September 23rd. I'm so excited, you guys. You have no idea. We are so close now. I plan on also filming a video answering your questions about the course and giving more info, but what I can and want to say for now is that I'm super proud of it and can't wait for you to watch it. There are over 7 hours of video footage of me showing every step of my process as well as explaining fundamentals like anatomy and perspective. As always, the class will be linked down below for you to check it out. Everyone who signs up before the publishing date will also get a small discount. So enough of the shameless self-promo and let's get into the video. The first types of questions I got were about how and when I started taking art more seriously, and how I found my style and who my biggest inspirations were. About 4 years ago now is when I started my Instagram account. I had been drawing all my life pretty much, but more or less on and off, so not consistently or with a goal in mind. When I was 12 or 13, I wanted to become a mangaka and practiced and drew a lot back then and read every single book about making manga that you can think of. Yes, all of these how to draw manga books, I still have them. But I never truly felt good enough to pursue that career path and couldn't really finish any manga that I felt, was good enough. So I gave up at some point or lost sight of my goal in a way. After getting Instagram, I started following a lot of artists and really fell in love with Jacqueline de Leon, Audra Auclair, and also Haikala, just to name 3, and wanted to also make art that I could share with other people. So I made an account and started posting every day. It took me a full year to even get to 100 followers, so I truly wasn't good at all yet, and I'm still so appreciative of everyone who supported my tiny account during that time. But just by staying consistent and doing what I feel most passionate about, I grew slowly but steadily. And that's also my main advice I can give. Stay consistent. If you take photos, make them look bright and clear, and also interact with your followers. That's pretty much it. If you feel like your growth is slow, just use this time to improve your skills. Maybe you are just not there yet, and that's okay. Just stay consistent and keep going, and remember, you are making art for yourself first, so enjoy the time and worry about followers and all that other stuff second. So what program do I use? I use both Photoshop and also Procreate. For Photoshop, I just use my MacBook and then also a Wacom Intuos Draw tablet, a really small non-screen graphic tablet, because I just prefer that one. It's super easy and simple and very basic, and I really like that. And then obviously I also use Procreate, and that is on the iPad and that has a screen, but I have a super old iPad and I'm using the first generation Apple Pencil. And do I recommend getting an iPad for beginner digital artists? Yeah, I would definitely say that the iPad is super close to the traditional art experience and will be a very fluid and soft transition from traditional art. When I started digital art, I started with a regular non-screen graphic tablet, which means I had to learn the whole hand-eye coordination thing, and that really was a struggle. The first time I tried using it, I failed miserably and was so angry that I just threw it in my drawer and didn't touch it for a few days. And then after I'd calmed down, I could try again, and just with steady learning, I was able to get better. So if you want to skip that and just make it super easy on you, I can highly recommend getting an iPad, and it has been really fun for me to use. So yeah, definitely something I can recommend for someone who wants to make the switch. Where do I get inspiration? How do I even start a drawing? Or how do I motivate myself and get myself inspired to start a drawing? Nowadays, my main problem isn't the inspiration part. It's mostly the having enough time to do all the things I want to draw part. And for inspiration, what helps a lot for me is seeing other artists, as well as using Pinterest and also Instagram to find cool photos and then getting inspired by those. I can recommend you to have a folder in Pinterest that is kind of like an inspiration folder that isn't necessarily full of photos that you want to copy or anything, but photos that spark your interest and make you want to create something, and just are ideas that you wanted to save for later. So in a time where you have a high inspiration phase and have a lot of ideas, collect those for later. So later on you can use them to get inspired. That can be collecting photos in a folder or a board on Pinterest, but you can also just write your inspirations down, and that helps a lot. And I also have multiple boards for poses, for example, or hair or clothing. And if I'm really not inspired, I will just start doing some studies. And after a while, I usually want to transfer one of those poses I just studied to a more finished illustration. So that's what I usually do. The next question is how to draw backgrounds and deciding them in cohesion with the rest of the piece. So I think this is meant as how to come up with an illustration that not only is a character but also a background. For me, when drawing backgrounds, it's very important to have the background planned and in mind in the thumbnail stage already, or the reference collecting stage. When I'm just drawing a regular character, then adding a background behind them or around them would be kind of difficult. I mean, it would be possible. It would be a lot more difficult as if I had planned them beforehand and did some thumbnails. So that's something I highly recommend, is to do thumbnails and think of a concept and the way you want it to look afterwards beforehand, and really plan that out. That is also something I teach in the illustration course for Class 101, how to actually concept something like this, and how to bring in things like composition and perspective, and how to make the thumbnails that they will be helpful for later on when you're actually doing the drawing. And I'm also showing step by step how I do the drawings. So from the very rough initial sketch to defining it until the final piece. So yeah, I can highly recommend you to think of the background and the character as a whole and use just as much thought and effort for the background as you do for the character, and not just treat it like an afterthought, but really also include the background into your planning and thoughts and make it special. How long do my drawings usually take? This really depends on what kind of drawing you're talking about, but just regular kind of character illustrations, I would say maybe 2 hours, maybe 3, not sure. And then those bigger pieces, definitely I would say like 5 or 6 hours maybe, but I rarely time myself. So these are just estimates, and I also watch movies while I draw, so that kind of prolongs the time. Or I would watch YouTube videos. If I was just concentrated and drawing the whole time, maybe I would be quicker. Not sure, but yeah, that's roughly how long they take. I really like to take my time on stuff and not rush myself too much. Especially for bigger pieces, I really take my time with backgrounds. For example, I don't want to rush them, and if I feel like I'm bored and don't want to draw them anymore, then I just switch to something else, so I'm inspired and motivated throughout the entire piece and don't get sloppy or anything. What are my favorite art books? I do have a video showing most of my art books that I have right now, but I also recently got some new ones from Cosmic Spectrum, and those are my absolute favorites right now. But I also really like the Studio Ghibli art off books. These are also really inspiring, and I just generally, also the High Color book. And then I also just really like getting smaller art books from artists I really like that I know from Instagram, from their Etsy shop. So like mermaid zines and stuff, I also really like those. And that's also why I like producing them. So those are the ones I really like. But then I also have some older ones from Arina Tanemura, who is my first art crush, if you want to put it like that. So I also have all her art books. So yeah, those are my favorites. But if you want to see all of them, I'm leaving the video in the info box. The one you link on top. You know what I mean. How many cats do I have? I just have one right now, and that's Mila. And how old is she? Well, she is a rescue cat, so you can't really know. But she is roughly 3 or 4 now, I think. Yeah. She is still pretty young, but she is also a super relaxed and very well-behaved cat. Well, I would say at least if we are walking outside, she's very well-behaved, but she really knows what she wants and will just take whatever she wants. And I love her a lot. How did you start doing commissions, and any advice to people who want to? I did film a video about commissions a while ago. I'm also going to link that. Not sure what I said back then, but my advice is to slowly just ease your way into it and charge prices that you feel comfortable with. So prices where you don't think you are over or undercharging yourself. If that's $30 for a portrait or $50 or just $5, that's also perfectly fine. In the beginning, I only charge like $5 for a portrait because that's what I was comfortable with, and then I upped my price gradually. So I can also recommend you to just really listen to yourself and think, and also compare yourself to other artists you really like and see what you feel comfortable with. And as you get better, you will obviously also charge more. But then also you have to see what people are willing to pay. I wouldn't necessarily say just because no one wants to buy your portraits for $10, you should go even lower, because that's already pretty low. Maybe you should then, instead of doing portraits for people who aren't even willing to pay $10, I would then try to improve my skills and get better before trying it again. So if you're not really getting any sales, maybe you have to improve a bit and get a bit better. And I can also recommend you to post portraits that are similar to the ones you want to offer as commissions in your feed as posts, so people can see what they potentially could be getting. And also keep in mind that people need to know that you have open commissions in order for you to get them, if that makes sense. So in your post or under your post, you can write commissions open if you want to get something like this, blah, blah, blah. So also in your bio, obviously, you could write commissions open. So that's something I can recommend. Any tips on starting a Patreon? Same. I actually, when I did my first post on Patreon, I felt so awkward because I really didn't know what I was doing and everything. But then it just all happened organically, which is how it happens for most things. I would say that you should really think beforehand what you want to offer or what kind of Patreon you want to make. So be certain that you are able to offer something you would also want to receive. So for example, if you really like seeing sketches, then you could have a sketchbook tier or something. And if you feel like you're ready to deliver those things, I think that's when you can make a Patreon. And obviously it's also good if you have a certain fan base that will also sign up for your Patreon. But I also think it's good if you start and only have a few patrons. I think I started out with like 5 or 6 patrons. And that was really good for me as a testing phase where I could test out what kind of rewards I would be able to do. And then also I learned how to fulfill the physical rewards on a very small group of people. So then later on, when my Patreon slowly and organically grew, I was able to adapt to the larger numbers more easily because I already knew how to do certain things and I already knew what I could deliver and what not, if that makes sense. So once you feel like you are ready and really want to make one, and there are some people who maybe have already requested you to make one, or if you feel like there are some people who would definitely sign up, then you can create one. And I wouldn't feel too discouraged if you are not getting a ton of patrons right away. Something I have heard is that for every 1,000 followers, one of them is going to sign up for something like that. So if you have 2,000 followers right now, then getting 2 patrons would already be pretty good, I would say. So don't feel discouraged. As you grow, also your Patreon is going to grow, and use this as a learning phase that is going to be very beneficial for your future. And also those fans are the most valuable thing that you have, because they are here for you while you are really small and just starting out. And those are the people you can always count on later on. So value this time and use it for yourself. So how did I get started with my Etsy and what inspired me to open a shop? So creating products and making stickers, making prints and all that stuff, that is just my favorite thing to do. And that's also why I wanted to make a Patreon. I just wanted to make cool stickers. I know it sounds pretty random and pretty simple, but that's just the thing that keeps me going and gets me inspired and makes me want to create. It's just so fun to plan something, do the initial sketches, and then slowly work on it and then see the finished product. That's just something that makes me really happy, and that's why I opened my Etsy shop back in the day, and that's also why I made a Patreon, because I wanted to make these monthly parcels that are themed, and I want to share my process of creating everything with someone who is interested in it, and so they could also hold the finished products in their hand. So that's the idea I had. And yeah, the shop as well. I'm glad I opened my Etsy shop beforehand so I could practice and learn a bit about creating products. Where do I get my zines, sticker sheet, prints and everything printed from? So let's start with the zines. I get those from Awesome Merchandise. I get my sticker sheets from Sticker App, and I also print them myself every now and again, and I use a silhouette portrait too, I think, but any silhouette portrait would definitely work for that. I just got a really cheap one to try it out, and it's working really well for me. And I use sticker paper from PPD, the matte vinyl, and I get that on Amazon. And I try to share all my resources and everything in my videos, so on my studio vlogs, so you can see and get updated what I use and what I like and what I dislike. But I'm also going to say everything again in here. I get my prints from Moo, and my thank you cards and small business cards, I usually get those from Vistaprint. I get my tissue paper from No Issue, and I got my acrylic phone charms from Zap Creatives. I also have used Zap Creatives for sticker sheets in the past, but I feel like the printing quality isn't exactly where I want it to be. It's not as smooth, if that makes sense. So I wouldn't really go for them in the future for sticker sheets, but definitely for charms, I think they are really cute from them. So do I also make prints at home? I actually did do that in the beginning, but just now I find it easier to just order them and then be able to package them quicker. And also the prints I'm doing right now are postcard kind of prints, so on heavy cardstock, and my printer just can't handle big paper like that. I also do watercolor paper prints at home right now, but just small runs of them. But in the beginning, I can highly recommend you to start doing prints at home, just because you are more flexible with numbers and everything. And there I can also recommend you the PPD photo paper. There's the same company as the sticker paper. They are not sponsoring me or anything. They don't even know who I am and that I exist. But that paper is, it has this soft, silky, matte texture. I don't know, I really like it for prints, and the printing looks really nice on them. And I highly recommend that paper. How to calculate your prices. So what I have learned is to do the investment cost and multiply that by 3, but I'm not really calculating anything, just kind of roughly think about, okay, how much did I pay for that? I also look at other people who have Etsy shops, other artists, and see how much they charge, and then I'm kind of trying to be in the same range, and I'm kind of trying to see how much would I pay for this item, and what would be a price where if I saw this item in an Etsy shop, I would think, oh wow, yeah, that's a good price and I want to buy that. For my shop, I really want to make everything affordable, but I do try to make it reasonable so I also can pay out myself, if that makes sense. So when will my shop reopen? I'm currently, I think, doing like a once a month thing, and I will be at Dokomi at the 26th and 27th of September. And I think when I'm home again and have all those leftovers from the convention, then I think I'm going to reopen my shop. So probably at the end of September or beginning of October. And I'm already thinking of getting some really cute black or spooky tissue paper maybe. So we will see. Do you feel weird making videos in English? I just posted my first studio vlog and it's ooh. Oh yeah, definitely. In the beginning when I recorded my first video, I felt so uncomfortable. It was crazy. But it is just doing it regularly and just kind of getting used to it. So if you're feeling weird, that's totally normal. And I promise you, at least 1 year from now, it's going to be like second nature to you if you keep going. So keep doing it. You got this. You're doing amazing. And most people are just genuinely so nice and understanding that I'm just German and have this accent, and they still watch my videos, which is amazing. And I wanted to say thank you for watching my first videos and enduring my horrible accent, and also enduring my accent right now. So now I have some questions about actual drawing stuff that need a full-on tutorial, but for some of them I actually have a tutorial already, or they are included in my Class 101 class. So I'm just going to go over them pretty quickly because we already are talking for quite a while. So tips for line art. I do have a line video and I'm going to link that as well. Then how to draw shoes and feet. That actually is something I haven't really made a tutorial on yet, but I think I will in the future. It's something I am not the best at, so I'm not sure if I'm the right person to make a tutorial. But what I can say is approach everything in big shapes in the beginning and then work your way towards the smaller shapes and details. So that's something I can recommend you to do. How to draw and shade hair. I have a tutorial on that on my Patreon, but I also include that or a full lesson of that in my Class 101 course. How to make clothing seem see-through or sheer. Future me is going to make a quick iPad recording for me so I can demonstrate it, but I just take a new layer beneath the line art layer but on top of my skin layer, and I just fill that whole layer everywhere where I want the sheer clothing to be, and then I just lower the opacity. How to pick colors. So obviously also that's a whole lesson in my Class 101 course, but one thing that I can say is keep harmony and contrast in mind. So in your color scheme, always have something that is harmonious. If it is an analogous color scheme, or if you have a lot of desaturated or bright colors, have something like that in there, but then also some contrast. If that is a contrasting complementary color or a really saturated color in there, or a really bright one in a really dark scheme, balance that out. Have some harmony as well as contrast. That's something I can highly recommend you to get into and try out. Facial structure and eyes, also in my Class 101 course. Why do I do the circles before my line art? So you mean the blue circles I do in the beginning of my speed paints? Those are actually for me to be able to reference the most important landmarks of the anatomy. So I explain this more, you guessed it, in my Class 101 course. This is just a course where I explain everything. So if you are a beginner and clueless about a lot of stuff, I can highly recommend that class for you. But I just use those as the guidelines for the most important landmarks. And one of the circles stands for the height of the head. I know these are not realistic proportions. The realistic body has 7.5 heads and mine have 6 heads. But I use, for example, the second head to indicate where the waist is and so on. So that's why I use them. When will I open my commissions again? Right now with Class 101 and everything, there's just no way I can also do commissions. And I think the next time I will open my commissions, it will be for my patrons first. So Patreon only commissions. And then I also have a waiting list that I have to work on. So it will definitely take a while until I make a commission post on my Instagram where you can get them on there. I'm sorry, but just right now it's not happening. But I'm not saying that I'm never going to take commissions again, just not right now. How to deal with art block. Do you or have you ever felt like there's no point in drawing or creating art because it's not going to be good? I haven't drawn anything in a few months and I'm struggling to get back to it out of fear. Any suggestions on how to get past this? Also, this ties in with what kind of advice would I give myself if I was a beginner. So if you're struggling right now and you feel like you don't really know where to start, what I would do is studies. You can see me do right now on screen is what I recommend you to do. Don't pressure yourself at all. Just draw a few simple studies like this. Look at some pictures on Pinterest and just study them and study a lot of them until you feel more comfortable. And what I would recommend my beginner self as well is actually learn the fundamentals. And that's also why I'm starting my course just with a whole chapter of fundamentals, because they are so important. If you feel clueless when you draw a body or anything, that's most likely because you don't have a clue and because you haven't learned and really understood those things yet, how everything works. So I highly can recommend you to learn those fundamentals and find a way for you to stylize and actually use them in an illustration. So look at the shapes the body has and really learn them and practice them. And obviously in the beginning you're not going to be amazing. And remember, I needed 1 year to get 100 followers, you guys. So it's okay to be bad in the beginning, and whenever I make something bad, I just do the next drawing, So don't beat yourself up. You don't need to be a master or anything yet. This is the perfect time to learn. And if you feel like there are things you need to learn, that's so great, because learning is the most fun thing about art. I recently started doing more perspective and learning more perspective because of my illustration course, because there is just a huge focus on perspective and using it for illustration later on in the later chapters. And just by teaching it and repeating some things that I pretty much already knew about perspective, but by repeating them, I really understood them. And by doing the exercises I talk about, I actually learned how to use them for my art. And just doing studies of perspective and everything have just helped so much. And before that, I didn't have that much of a clue of how to use it. I just generally kind of used it. But I also didn't know how to do more extreme angles when doing portraits and stuff. But just learning that has been so much fun. So use this time to really enjoy it and don't beat yourself up if you are not doing too well. You can also see that the first study I did today was also the first kind of drawing I did today, and it wasn't too great or anything, but I just continued and just did the next, and they get looser and better as I go. I feel like, at least. These are all not masterpieces, but they all just are for myself and to practice. So believe in yourself and don't give up, and know that if you're not doing any drawing right now, that's not going to bring you closer to your goal. You need to get out at least 100 of really bad drawings before you can get to the good stuff. So get those out in an ugly sketchbook right now, and then go on to more exciting stuff and more pretty stuff. So yeah, those were most of the questions. I hope I answered them. Again, I'm going to leave my class link and all those other links down below, as well as in the info box, the other videos I was talking about. And thank you so much for watching and doing the super relaxed video with me. I'm going to have a lot of fun editing out me coughing the entire time. Yeah, that's just how it is, I guess. So yeah, again, thank you so much for watching, and I will be seeing you in my next video. Bye!